In the description of conjugal love, could you please explain why is there anger in separation and in what's the other word?
Meeting?
Meeting?
Yeah. Who's asking?
Me.
Oh, okay. Because there's always anger in conjugal love. Conjugal love deals with very powerful desires. And anger comes from when a person's desires are not satisfied. So when we're dealing with very strong desires, if there's any problem with satisfying those desires, then there can be anger. It can flare up at any time. So when lovers are apart, they feel angry because they can't get together with their lover, their beloved. See? So they project their anger on other people who are stopping them, or situations that are stopping them from meeting the beloved. But even when they get together with the beloved, then there can be anger towards the beloved also. You see? If things don't go just right, something comes up, or there's jealousy, some competition in loving affairs, this is very common. So, Krishna has lots and lots of girlfriends. They're always getting into dust-ups with each other because they're jealous, or they're competing, or insulting each other. You know how young girls are.
Then I have a logical problem there, because, well, we've mentioned so many times that when one surrenders to Krishna, Krishna knows the devotee and he is the only one who can satisfy the devotee. Mm-hmm. But from this description, it seems that the devotee is never satisfied or never reaches that point, because if there's always anger and like that, so I guess what's the meaning of satisfaction?
Well, satisfaction means in this case that the devotee has reassurance that the relationship is not going to break. See? Like we talked about, the loving anger between Radha and Krishna, for example, is different from the ordinary fights that occur between lovers in the material world. Because when lovers in the material world fight, the relationship can break up. And often it does. Most of the time it does, actually. But in the spiritual world, there's no question of the relationship breaking. The relationship is eternal. See? So that loving anger that's expressed in the relationship between Radha and Krishna especially is of a completely different type. It never threatens the relationship itself. The relationship is unbreakable. So it becomes another means of exchanging affection.
Like spice on food. And like
yes, spicy food, a good example.
Yeah, that's a little extra taste to the food.
Yeah, technically what it does is that it creates separation within meeting.
Like the fear of being separated as soon as there's meeting.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, Radha experiences that. She experiences separation within meeting and meeting within separation. And these are transcendental things having to do with our philosophy of achintya bheda bheda tattva. That even within meeting there's also separation, or within separation there's also meeting. It's transcendental. And all devotees, if you're a devotee and you're separated from Krishna, but you're thinking of Krishna all the time with intense affection, then in a way you're not separated from Krishna at all, because Krishna is transcendental. Therefore, when you think of Krishna, Krishna is present. So even if you're separate from Krishna, if you think of Krishna, then Krishna is there. Conversely, if you're meeting with Krishna, but you're anticipating that, oh, soon we'll have to part, then there's a feeling of separation, even within meeting. You see? Human emotions are very complex. And they often contain contradictory elements. In fact, it's rare that an emotion will be completely pure and not have any contradictory elements. So I think it's very appropriate that these descriptions of Krishna's relationships with his devotees do acknowledge the fact that there's sometimes contradictory emotions at the same time, because this is our experience.
Okay.
Some question?
There's a question from Krishna Shakti Devi Dasi. Babaji, please accept my humble obeisances. I have a misunderstood term in regards...
Only one? Go ahead. Just kidding.
In regards to the lotus feet of Krishna, when you meditate the lotus feet of Krishna, do you imagine a lotus flower under Krishna's feet? Can you describe the lotus feet of Krishna?
Well, sometimes we see Krishna's lotus feet pictured as him standing on a lotus flower, with his feet on the lotus blossom. That's one way to think of lotus feet. But the reason why they're called lotus feet, well, a couple of reasons. One is that they're very, very beautiful, like a lotus flower. A lotus flower is considered like the epitome of beauty in the material world because the form of the lotus flower is so perfect. But there's another reason too, which is that there's actually the mark of a lotus, or the figure of a lotus on Krishna's feet in the lines. Everybody has lines on their hands and feet, and there's a whole science of how you can read those lines. And the different lines mean different things. And it's not that they are like a picture of a lotus or a flag or the different things that appear on Krishna's feet and hands. But they are lines that are called these things because they have some resemblance. Not an exact resemblance maybe, but figurative resemblance. So the appearance of the figure of a lotus on someone's feet is an indication that they are a divine being, because this mark doesn't happen on just anybody's feet. It only happens on the feet of special living entities who are very great personalities, meaning an incarnation of the Lord. So the fact that Krishna has lotus feet refers to these marks, special marks. I don't have the reference right here, but if you look in the Vedabase, under lotus feet, there should be a diagram. Or look on the internet on lotus feet, and you'll see a diagram. Is that on your chadar?
There's feet?
Well, just feet, but it doesn't show much detail, does it?
3 marks in it.
Sometimes you can get chadars in India that show the lotus feet, and they show all the different marks. There's a flag, a lotus, a rod for controlling elephants, a club, a wheel, chakra, thunderbolt, so many other things on Krishna's feet. And these markings are how we recognize, well, one of the ways that we recognize an incarnation. Learn something every day, huh? Any more questions?
Not in the chat.
Well, let's get the drum.
And I have a question.
Ah.
You said at the start of the Darshan that we follow in the path, the footsteps of another devotee who is kind of in your mood. But there's so many devotees and there's so much going on to read. How do you even begin to find a devotee who and then you follow that path and right and right, so it's a constant switching.
Well, how do you find your favorite color M&M?
You try them all.
That's exactly right. You try, by reading the Shastras and the different stories of Krishna and his devotees, it's like you get to vicariously experience all the different flavors. And gradually, one or maybe a small group of them will become your favorites. And you'll want to read them again and again and think about them. And then you become attracted to this form of service that's expressed in the pastimes, in the stories. So then you start meditating on yourself performing a similar service. Not that you become that devotee, but that you perform a service that's similar, at least